Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Aki. Hope we having a good Sabbath out there. I pray that we all taking care of our health. And I know that they ended like the emergency, so I know we can kind of operate a little freely. But I just ask that y'all take care of your health out there. And I just pray that everyone is doing well. We're going to get off into this today's children lesson. And first we're going to start with the 10 Commandments in Exodus 20, followed by today's topic, which is Ahab's covetousness. All right, Ahab's covetousness, all right? So first let's deal with these 10 Commandments. You shall have no other gods before me. All right, what can be considered another god? What's considered another god?
Clothes.
You got clothes, all right? What else? Toys. What else?
Video games.
Video games. There's a few examples, all right? And when you talk about clothes, ultimately that's kind of glorifying when you think about it. The effort you put into dressing yourself up, and if you become stuck on yourself. Some people call it a metrosexual. You know what a metrosexual is? A metrosexual is somebody that's really so much focused on themselves. They put a whole lot of effort into dressing themselves up, beautifying themselves. It's like a male that does that. You know what I'm saying? So that's fit into that category, you know what I mean? Like how people say, you yourself can be considered your own God and stuff like that. That's like idolatry too, in a way. All right? There's nothing wrong with looking good and dressing a nice way, but I'm just saying that when you do that over the Most High, that is like a problem. Okay? All right, so just to name a few: video games, clothes, yourself. Anything that you put your effort into more than the Most High is definitely considered another God. Anything other than serving the Most High. Anything. Right? You shall not make for yourself an idol. You shall not make for yourself an idol. All right? Now, this is talking about idolatry too. Remember, we just talked about idolatry here. But this is talking about idolatry too, right? So what is he talking about when it talks about you should not make for yourself an idol? Give me some examples.
Of carved image.
Of carved image. What else? Like what type of carved images?
Buddha statues.
Buddha statues. What else? Yeah, Buddha statues definitely, and that's like another religion. A Buddha statue. There's a whole another religion, right? When we talk about the Buddha statue, we're talking about that's pertaining to an Eastern religion, a whole another religion where they sit the Buddha statue there and they bow down and worship it or whatever. Can you name some other ones?
Animal heads.
Animal heads. Yep, that you bow down and worship. Now let me read this because this only give you part of it. It says, "You shall not make for yourself an idol," but they don't give you the other part. So let me go to Exodus 20 real quick. Go close. Can you close that door for me, please? You have to close that door. Thank you. Yep. Talk to me. All right. So Exodus 20 and verse 4, it says, "You do not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of that which is in the Shamayim above, or which is in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. You do not bow down to them nor serve them. For I, Yahuwah, your Elohim, am a jealous El, visiting the wickedness of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing kindness to thousands of those who love me and guard my commandments." All right, so when you're talking about that particular commandment, it's not only talking about carving an image, it's talking about bowing down to it as well. All right? And by bowing down, shalom, Shabbat shalom. By bowing down, we're talking about worshiping of another idol or another god, rather. Right? All right, so I want to read that because they don't give you the full context in here. All right. So it says, then we're going to move on. You should not misuse the name of Yahuwah your Elohim. You should not misuse the name of Yahuwah your Elohim. All right, how can we misuse the name of the Most High?
By making a story on the news that is not true, but then you swear to the Most High that it's true, but it's not.
So you swear, let me clean that up a little bit. So you swear, like if you hear, like you try to convince somebody and say, this story is true, and it's really not true, and you swear in the Most High's name that it is, then that is the misusage of his name. That's using his name in vain, right? So making a false oath or a false vow in the Most High's name is definitely the usage of his name. It's definitely misusing his name. All right, so that's how we misuse the Most High's name. Now what it's showing right here is a woman, screaming, and she probably saying the Most High's name or whatever, but though you don't want to do this either, it's not really talking about that. This out of context is not really talking about that. All right? But you don't want to do that either, though. You know what I mean? Like it's best to just, if you're going to use the Most High's name in your speech, always use it in righteousness. Okay? Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. How can we keep the Sabbath day holy?
Pray.
We can definitely pray on that day. What else?
Read the Bible.
We can read the Bible.
Watch VeggieTales.
We can watch VeggieTales. What else?
Go congregate.
We can go congregate, right? Which is definitely commanded of us to do. That's the best way to do is come congregate, right? Let me show you how I know that. So we're going to go to Leviticus, right, 23. And we're going to go to Leviticus 23 and verse 1. And it reads, And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, The appointed times of Yahuwah, which you are to proclaim as Kodesh gatherings, my appointed times are these. 6 days work is done, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of rest, a Kodesh gathering. You do no work. It is a Sabbath to Yahuwah in all your dwellings. These are the appointed times of Yahuwah, Kodesh gatherings, which you are to proclaim at their appointed times. All right? So it's talking about, shalom, how y'all doing? So it's talking about the appointed times. And one of those days that's mentioned is the Sabbath. Right? Let me read it again. It says, Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, The appointed times of Yahuwah, which you are to proclaim as Kodesh gatherings. My appointed times are these. 6 days work is done. This is talking about the Sabbath. But the seventh day is a Sabbath of rest, a Kodesh gathering. You do no work. It is a Sabbath to Yahuwah in all your dwellings. The Sabbath to Yahuwah in all your dwellings. All right? So you're supposed to, it says 6 days, no work is done. And you don't do no work on those days. It is a Kodesh gathering. Okay? So notice it says it's a Kodesh gathering. Holy convocation, some translations might say in your KJV Bible. This is the Hallelujah scripture. Right? So it says it's a Kodesh gathering. Okay? Let's keep going. Honor your father and your mother. How can you honor your father and mother?
Listen to the instructions.
Listen to their instructions. What else?
Give gifts.
Giving gifts to show that you respect them and love them. Yeah. What else?
Be kind to them.
Be kind to them. Right, of course. How about keeping them with a good name? Yeah, keeping them with a good name. You know what I mean? How can we keep them with a good name? Let your
Talk to your friends and don't talk bad about them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Tell people what your parents taught you.
absolutely. And you can tell them, and you can show them too, just through your actions. All right. Oh yeah. So when they ask you where you learned that from, your parents taught you. So you're keeping them with a good name. Keeping your parents with a good name. All right. Moving on. You shall not murder. You shall not murder. If somebody break into your house and you defend yourself, I'll give it away, but if you kill him, is that murder? It's not murder. That's defense. It's self-defense, right? But if you get into an argument with somebody and they decide that, hey, I don't like what he said to me, I'm going, and they go home and they get their weapon and they come and do something to you, is that murder?
Yeah.
That's murder. All right, that's murder. Just because somebody died doesn't necessarily mean it's murder. It's all about how it happened. All right, that's what I'm pointing out. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not commit adultery. All right, what is adultery for a man?
When he goes outside of his marriage to sleep with another woman but not marry her.
That's fornication.
When he
Yeah.
looks at another woman?
Huh?
When he just looks at another woman?
What woman?
A married woman.
A married woman. There you go. So yeah, a married woman. That's the key. So when you talk about adultery with a man and a woman, adultery for a man would be what she just described as him looking at another woman or engaging another woman in sexual activity that's married to a man already, because that woman belongs to that man. Okay, so she's married, so she belongs to somebody else, or him divorcing his wife for any other reason other than adultery. All right, if he divorces his wife for any other reason other than adultery and get another wife, that is adultery for a man. Okay, so then for a woman, what is adultery for a woman? What is it?
When the woman sneaks out of her marriage and go with another man,
Yeah.
that commit adultery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Much simpler for the woman, because again, at this time, according to scripture, a man is the head. He was allowed to have more than one wife. So, by his choice, if he wanted that, so it wouldn't necessarily, him going to get another woman wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing if he married her, though. Other than that, it would be fornication. If he just deal with a woman and don't marry her, you know what I mean? You shall not steal. You shall not steal. You see a woman looking back to see if a store clerk is actually watching her while she stuffed goods in her pockets. What should she have done?
She should have asked.
Should have bought it, if she had the money, or she should have asked. If she was poor, she should have just asked. But other than that, she should have bought it if she had money, right? You should not give false testimony against your neighbor. What does that word neighbor mean according to the Bible?
Neighbor means in Israelite means family.
It means family of some sort, right? An example would be King David. When King David committed adultery with Bathsheba, which was Uriah the Hittite's wife, what happened was the prophecy came from through Nathan from the Most High, saying that since you did this act, what the Most High was going to do is allow one of his neighbors to lay with his wives, right? That ended up happening, but the neighbor was who? Do y'all remember who the neighbor was? I don't remember. Absalom. It was his son Absalom. Remember, Absalom was trying to steal the kingdom from David? And when he was trying to steal the kingdom from David, what he did, he received counsel from Ahithophel. Ahithophel told him to go in, Ahithophel was his counselor and told him to go and lay with all of his wives, all of David's wives, his father's wives. Told Absalom this. And so that fulfilled that prophecy that your neighbor would do this. So in this case, the neighbor was his son, David's son. Right? And then last but not least, you shall not covet anything that belongs to your neighbor. Anything. All right? When you think about in terms of what we just talked about in regards to the marriage and not committing adultery, the coveting, what Mashiach was pointing out was the fact that if a woman is married and if a man is eyeing another woman and he don't like that, he don't check that spirit, what happens is he starts to covet after that man's possession to the point where he's like it's like committing. You might as well be committing adultery. That's because she belongs to somebody else. If she belongs to somebody else, Satan is going to tempt you with things, right? But what you need to do is make sure you pray about that spirit, because this is something that's placed on your heart. And if you allow it to fester and get out of control, what happens is you end up sinning in that way. So you need to pray about that, right? Pray about it, fast, whatever happens, all right? And in this case, it's showing this woman lusting after her neighbor's possessions. Neighbor meaning family, according to the Bible, but in this case, they talking about like a next door neighbor. He got a house, nice car, and stuff like that. She's lusting, and she's not willing to check that spirit. So what is she going to do next in order to obtain these things is the issue. She's now going to break more laws. Stealing, potentially murdering in order to acquire these things, which is still stealing. It's just now you doing it forcibly. So, and then ultimately that's an idolatry. So think about when we was talking about adultery, and a man is lusting after another man's wife. That ultimately becomes idolatry too, because you was willing to break Yah's laws, right? Because you didn't control that spirit of covetousness, right? So what you did was you went and broke Yah's laws by making a plan to go and steal these possessions from your neighbor. All right? So that's the 10 Commandments. That's the 10 Commandments. All right, so now we're going to get off into today's topic. We're talking about Ahab's covetousness, right? Ahab's coveting, right? Let me change something here. Open up to 1 Kings 21. Kings chapter 21. We remember who Ahab is. Who is King Ahab? One of the northern kings, right? Who is he married to? Jezebel. Yeah. So King Ahab is married to Jezebel. What type of woman is she? Wicked woman, right? Very evil. All right, let me get there. All right, so 1 Kings 21, and we're going to start at the top. We're going to read through this thing. 21 and verse 1. And it came to pass after these things that Naboth, the Jezreelite, had a vineyard, which was in Jezreel, hard by the palace of Ahab, king of Samaria. So Naboth is a regular citizen of northern kingdom of Israel. And his vineyard is right by King Ahab's palace. And keep in mind, King Ahab is rich. He's the king of the northern kingdom. Like, he's the head of the northern kingdom. He have everything at his foot. You know what I mean? He have all the wealth. He have, all type of things. Like he wants his vineyard. He probably have more than what this vineyard could cover. But yet you're going to see how petty he is, right? Verse 2. And Ahab spake unto Naboth, saying, Give me your vineyard, that I may have it for a garden of herbs, because it is near unto my house, and I will give thee for it a better vineyard than it. Now wait a minute. He just told you that he's going to give you a better vineyard. He just told, the scripture just said that King Ahab is going to give Naboth a better vineyard, meaning he have other vineyards, right? He have other vineyards, and him having other vineyards, he's not willing to go and deal with those vineyards. He's willing to take somebody else's vineyard, right? I will give thee for it a better vineyard than it, or if it seem good to thee, I will give thee the worth of it in money. And Naboth said to Ahab, Yahuwah forbidded me that I should give the inheritance of my fathers unto thee. All right, so this is something that Naboth, he received from his fathers. This was an inheritance. So it had more value than any money or anything that he could receive. And Ahab came into his house heavy and displeased because of the word which Naboth the Jezreelite had spoken to him. For he had said, I will not give thee the inheritance of my fathers. And he laid him down upon his bed and turned away his face and would eat no bread. But Jezebel, his wife, came to him. Now he was sad over this vineyard. He's sad, and he's really sad over this one vineyard. Remember, he has better vineyards than this, according to him. But Jezebel, his wife, came to him and said unto him, Why is thy spirit so sad, that thou eatest no bread? And he said unto her, Because I spake unto Naboth the Jezreelite, and said unto him, Give me thy vineyard for money, or else, if it please thee, I will give thee another vineyard for it. And he answered, I will not give thee my vineyard. And Jezebel his wife said unto him, Dost thou now govern the kingdom of Israel? Arise, and eat bread, and let thine heart be merry. I will give thee the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite. So she's reminding him, like, you're the king, like you can have anything that you want. Don't worry about it. I'm going to get you that vineyard. All right, but let's see if it's righteous. Verse 8. So she wrote letters in Ahab's name and sealed them with his seal and sent the letters unto the elders and to the nobles that were in his city, dwelling with Naboth. And she wrote in the letters, saying, Proclaim a fast and set Naboth on high among the people. She set Naboth on high amongst the people. So they proclaim in a fast, and to set him on high is to like give him a certain level of reverence. And we're gonna see how they do this. So they gonna proclaim a fast. It's gonna go into what it means, but that's just basically giving him a certain level of respect and reverence once they proclaim a fast in the midst of all the people of Israel, right? We're gonna see what it means, what it further go into. And set 2 men, sons of Belial, before him to bear witness against him, saying, Thou didst blaspheme Elohim and the king, and then carry him out and stone him, that he may die. So that's the plan that they're going to do. So they're going to set him on high, meaning give him a certain level of reverence in front of everybody, and then they're going to bear false witness against his name. So that's the plan. So they want to isolate. What they want to do is they want to isolate him and show that he's a righteous man. You know, which Naboth is a righteous man, but she don't really care that he's a righteous man. She's want to just show everybody that he's a righteous man, and then the plan is to set these 2 wicked men to say that, oh, he blasphemed the Most High's name. So, you know, for example, if we set you on the stage and we say we giving you this honor and reverence for the good things that you've done, and then all of a sudden, because we want to really, really give you a bad name, we set 2 men. We hire 2 men to start saying that you committed adultery and you did this and you did that. That's what she's doing, right? So then middle of verse 10, and then carry him out and stone him, that he may die. And the men of his city, even the elders and the nobles who were the inhabitants of his city, did as Jezebel had sent unto them, and as it was written in the letters which she had sent unto them. They proclaimed a fast, and set Naboth on high among the people. And there came in 2 men, children of Belial, and sat before him. And the men of Belial witnessed against him, even against Naboth, in the presence of the people, saying, Naboth did blaspheme Elohim and the king. Then they carried him forth out of the city and stoned him with stones that he died. Right? So they carried out the plan that she had put forth. Right? So Naboth is dead now. Then they sent to Jezebel, saying, Naboth is stoned and is dead. And it came to pass, when Jezebel heard that Naboth was stoned and was dead, that Jezebel said to Ahab, Arise, take possession of the vineyard of Naboth, the Jezreelite, which he refused to give thee
for money, for Naboth is not alive but dead. And it came to pass, when Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, that Ahab rose up to go down to the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, to take possession of it. So even though Ahab didn't physically have his hand in killing Naboth, but what happened was she was able to use his seal that he had. And she wrote these letters to proclaim this fast and to set this thing in array, right? And so, but you see, Ahab had nothing to do with it. He was sad, but he never stopped it either. You see what I'm saying? He, allowed her to use his seal to write things in his name, and which was unrighteous too. So he's a part of this conspiracy, right? So let's keep reading. Then, verse 14, and then they sent to Jezebel, saying, Naboth is stoned and is dead. And it came to pass, when Jezebel heard that Naboth was stoned and was dead, that Jezebel said to Ahab, Arise, take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, which he refused to give thee for money. For Naboth is not alive, but dead. And it came to pass, when Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, that Ahab rose up to go down in the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, to take possession of it. And the word of Yahuwah came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, Arise, go down to meet Ahab, king of Israel, which is in Samaria. Behold, he is in the vineyard of Naboth, whether he is going down to possess it.
So now the Most High is sending Elijah, the prophet. We know who Elijah is? We remember anything about Elijah? What about you? You remember anything about Elijah? What about you, Devon? Y'all remember Elijah?
Elijah is another northern king?
No. He's a prophet. He's a prophet. He's a prophet. He's the whole time he's been a prophet the whole time Ahab was a king. The whole time Ahab was king, Elijah was that prophet. All right. So the Most High sending Elijah to Ahab now. Let's see what happened.
Verse 19, and thou shalt speak unto him, saying, Thus saith Yahuwah, hast thou killed and also taken possession? And thou shalt speak unto him, saying, Thus saith Yahuwah, in the place where dogs lick the blood of Naboth, shall dogs lick thy blood, even thine.
So dogs, when Ahab was killed, dogs licked the blood of Naboth, right? And then, so the Most High is now saying that you're going to have that same thing happen to you.
Verse 20, and Ahab said to Elijah, Hast thou found me, O mine enemy? And he answered, I have found thee, because thou hast sold thyself to work evil in the sight of Yahuwah. Behold, I will bring evil upon thee, and will take away thy posterity, and will cut off from Ahab him that pisseth against the wall, and him that is shut up and left in Israel, and will make thine house like the house of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha the son of Ahijah, for the provocation wherewith thou hast provoked me to anger, and made Israel to sin.
So just like Jeroboam was an unrighteous king, y'all remember who Jeroboam is?
He's a southern.
No. Not a southern kingdom king at all.
Northern king?
Right, but what did he do? So look, Jeroboam was the first king. Jeroboam the son of Nebat was the first king to rule over the split kingdom of the northern kingdom. So he was the first king to rule over the split kingdom, right? And he's responsible for causing Israel to sin. So when he caused Israel to sin, the Most High sent Baasha against him. All right, now notice it's speaking against Baasha, King Baasha too. King Baasha started to sin. The Most High had him killed too. You know what I mean? So those two kings committed wickedness. They was two of the first northern kingdom Israelites to lead the split northern kingdom. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So now what he's telling him now is you're going to receive the same thing as them, right?
I'll read verse 22. And will make thine house like the house of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha the son of Ahijah, for the provocation wherewith thou hast provoked me to anger and made Israel to sin. And Jezebel also spake, and of Jezebel also spake Yahuwah, saying, the dog shall eat Jezebel by the wall of Jezreel. Him that dieth of Ahab in the city, the dog shall eat. And him that dieth in the field shall the fowls of the air eat. But there was none like unto Ahab, which did sell himself to work wickedness in the sight of Yahuwah.
So now the Most High is saying that he's worse than King Baasha and King Jeroboam. All right, none has worked wickedness like him.
Whom Jezebel his wife stirred up.
All right, whom Jezebel his wife stirred up, and it's because and that's one thing that he have that the other kings didn't have. He had a wife that was wicked, that didn't stir him up to go, that stirred him up to go do evil. Versus the other kings, they did not have a wife to stir them up to go and do evil.
Right? Verse 26. And he did very abominably in following idols, according to all things as did the Amorites, whom Yahuwah cast out before the children of Israel. And it came to pass, when Ahab heard those words, that he rent his clothes and put sackcloth upon his flesh and fasted and lay in sackcloth and went softly.
So Ahab now is remorseful for what he's done, for what has happened to Naboth, because the Most High has put fear in him by saying, hey, we're going to cut you off, cut your posterity off, meaning he's going to cut your whole lineage off, just like I did with King Jeroboam and King Baasha. All right, which when it means what it means to cut somebody's posterity off means your sons is not going to rule over and be in your stead as king anymore. I'm gonna kill them. Right? So you know how when you study the scriptures and the king rise up after the father and he become king, that wasn't gonna be the case. That wasn't gonna be the case. And it said, verse 27, and it came to pass when Ahab heard those words, that he rent his clothes and put sackcloth upon his flesh and fasted and lay in sackcloth and went softly. And the word of Yahuwah came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, seest thou how Ahab humbles himself before me? Because he humbles himself before me, I will not bring the evil in his days, but in his son's days will I bring the evil upon his house. So in the days of his son, he's going to bring the evil upon his house, right? So that's the end of that. Ahab showed that he had some level of remorse for what happened to King, but what happened to Naboth. And the Most High for that gave him mercy and was going to allow him to finish ruling in his kingdom. All right, but that still doesn't take away from him being wicked. It's just saying that, okay, since you showed me that, I'm going to have mercy on you and let you live out being a king. But in the days of your sons, I'm going to bring that prophecy to pass. I'm going to take out your whole family line after you. So he wasn't going to live to see his sons be killed or nothing like that. And he was also going to die being the king of the north, right? All right, so we got any questions? All right, so I guess that's it. Again, we hope that you all are taking care of yourselves. We are going to be having praise and worship followed by today's main lesson. Hope to see you all here for Sabbath class. Have a blessed Sabbath day. Shalom.